No Nation, welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown with yours truly the birthday boy, George Georgitis. I've got my co-host with me, as always, the beautiful, the one and only Jen Knoll 2013, aka at Jen Santee 1890. You can find her on X and Instagram. She watches all these other podcasts, so we can have fun and talk about it right here. But there's a couple podcasts, a couple articles that she didn't have to read for me. I really enjoyed them. We've got a new guest on the show today, a guy we haven't had the pleasure of speaking with, but he did a couple amazing articles and just generated a huge FOIA dump, him and another guy. And it's all about financing Florida State to the Big 10. We're going to go over all these tea leaves, and they're right there, bright as day for anybody that wants to look at them. Some of them's redacted, but welcome in, Bill. We really appreciate you for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
Man,
thank you.
What made you decide to do that research? Because boy, I'm sure glad you did, because it's one part of this conversation that's really untapped. And I can't wait to get into all of it and the three different main projects that go into this financial thing, and the difference between the private financing and the things that are kind of Big 10 specific that just kind of make sense in there as it pertains to our site.
Sure. Well, my professional career, I focus on economic development and real estate joint ventures. So about 10 years were in the public sector, and then 10 years running my own business, and then 10 years in the corporate section. So I've negotiated these complex joint ventures on both sides of the table, had led a successful negotiation to keep the NBA Kings in Sacramento, relocate a minor league baseball team to West Sacramento, and then I failed miserably at trying to put together a deal for a major league team in Sacramento. So I've had some sports experience. After my practitioner career, about 10 years ago, I ended that and I turned to writing. And part of that was going back to school at VCU to get my PhD in public policy, learn the craft of research. And my dissertation was on tourism economics. And my most recent article was on university real estate development. I turned to this sports piece because I'm an Oregon State fan, USC fan. And as the Pac-10 disintegrated, I was reading all these stories, and reporters have good sources and they're hearing things. And some of the stuff just wasn't, from my background, things weren't lining up like I thought they would be. But so I started writing about it, making FOIA requests so I could get the public records and see them for myself. And for Florida State, and I have to wait sometimes 5 or 6 months to get these documents. So but by the time I get them, the story is usually stale and moved on. But in this case, there was an article that was done on Project Osceola, and it mentioned there was a public records request. So I took a flyer and sent to Florida State. I said, hey, just give me what you gave them. I thought maybe I'll get something quickly. And 2 days later, I got the document done. So
that's amazing, man.
Yeah, so I was able to go through it from a perspective of someone experienced with private equity and real estate investments to kind of piece together what I saw as the most important pieces. And then in the email chains, I could see references to bond financing. So I turned to the public websites, which it had a pretty good, just available to download, the path that they were taking to refinance some projects and also finance new projects, which totaled about $500 million. But in those bond documents, I also saw some language that led me to believe that they were kind of teaming up or pairing those two together. So that's
Absolutely.
That's
not to cut you off, man, but let's just go ahead and bring Tony Altimore, our fourth guest on, who's going to be a little bit, probably even a little bit more educated on me to ask some questions, but I'm sorry, go ahead, right, and pick off where you left. I just didn't want to leave him hanging too long.
It's an honor to be here with Bill the Master.
Oh,
absolutely.
I lucked into those documents, coming at a time when the story was still alive and maybe hadn't been covered by the sports journalist in detail as much as I could probably bring to it. So that's how I got into sports, was just And I think the whole real estate realignment topic is fascinating. And Tony has been doing a really good job of putting out data sets that show how different universities fit in context of, all the universities that have football teams, whether it be endowments, whether it be admission rates, whether it be student population, because I think we're all struggling to figure out where we're going to end up. If you're a fan of Oregon State, if you're a fan of USC, that's the spectrum, because I have teams on both sides of the spectrum, one that's going to finish at the top and one that's going to finish towards the bottom. So, being able to communicate with fans and try to produce something that fans might be able to say, okay, realistically, this is where I'm going to be, and then just get ready for it, and maybe have a voice with your university to try to get them to maybe take some proactive steps to improve their position.
Absolutely, man. There's so much to talk about here, but I guess we can start at the beginning, what we kind of talked about before we got on air. There's three kind of really big projects that were uncovered in that data, in that information dump, that FOIA dump that you were able to get your hands on. One of them is a medical research facility that is going to supposedly be built on campus. They're going to lease it out, be able to raise revenue through that, but also it plays into kind of the direction the school wants to go, move into that AAU certification and things of that nature. One that's farther down the line that we'll get into probably later is a hotel on campus that they're also trying to get into. And the third, and I think the one that a lot of people are super interested in hearing about, and we can get into it a little later, is kind of the whole Saudi money, private equity kind of side of things that people have kind of speculated about. Is this going to be a live golf situation with Florida State and things of that nature? But I guess the medical research facility would be a great place to start, and kind of what's lined out in there.
I was gonna say, one of the things when we talked about it last time, this was before Bill got the amazing information out. We talked a little bit about the difference between like smart use of private resources and private partnerships, and then sort of some more ridiculous things. One of the things that really struck me about what Bill's found is I think Florida State is looking at really smart, sharp, narrowly defined, likely to be successful endeavors. Bringing in people to help with the marketing. There's another piece they have talking about marketing partnerships, stuff like that, rather than some of the pie in the sky things that we've heard and we're kind of worried about, are we going to see some like dumb money? Are they going to try to outsource the whole thing? People had rumors about, and Bill's really found that they're looking at very well-defined, smart, probably very, very economically beneficial additions for the school.
Yeah, and I would, you mentioned those three things on the private equity side, and I'd step back. There's another three one step back. You've got, trying to get the litigation, the settlement number down, which you can see that kind of play out in real time. They have the bond financing where if they get a really good interest rate, they might have extra borrow capacity to squeeze some more money out of that. And then third, they've got this series of private equity pieces. And on that point, there was an email in one of the documents where some of this university officials kind of put the brakes on the whole Saudi type of level of equity investment, saying, we can't just sell our assets without state legislation or competitive bidding processes. So, and I think they referred to what they potentially could do would be a super marketing media relations deal with somebody as a partnership. So they did have at the very beginning, some parameters that the accountants and the financial folks at the university kind of put on them. And they had JP Morgan was brought on to help advise them dealing with two firms that are real estate investors, also involved in media businesses. And they've been going through these term sheets. And I will say it has been a long time since they've had them on board. So, maybe there was a hope that there would be a big value they could extract for them back, 14, 15 months ago. But if there was something that they could strike that was just, jaw dropping on the the equity piece, that would have come together in months, not over a year. So I think they've started to narrow it down. In the redacted pages, there was one fully redacted spreadsheet that talked about the healthcare. It was Catalyst Real Estate
That's right.
Partners, and I passed by that spreadsheet after I read it probably 3 times, and I just kept passing by it because the whole spreadsheet was just redacted except for the footer. And then I did a research project with the University of California, Davis, where they paired with their medical center and a real estate company that did something called an innovation district, which seems to me like a way that a real estate company could kind of come into a university space, lease it out to potential businesses, grow those businesses, and share in the upside of the businesses. So, well, maybe there's something there. And lo and behold, there was a news release a couple of weeks ago that this Catalyst Real Estate Group had taken over management of the Football Operations Center, which is a $110 million plus facility that they had a contractor on board. They let them go. They couldn't get a guaranteed max price, apparently, that they wanted for that facility. So this real estate firm has come in now to manage it. Now, we don't know what the deal is. It could be that they're simply a construction manager. They could be leasing the ground from the university. My guess is that they're probably building the building, leasing the ground, because you can't sell the ground. The university can't give up their property. They don't want somebody holding property inside the campus. So they're going to lease the ground to this group. They'll build the building. That group will lease out some of the space to private parties. The university, FSU, might share in some of that revenue, and then they'll lease some of it for their football operations center. But having a medical component to your university is extremely valuable because people want to be co-located with the medical research. And I've seen that value add is across the country. There are universities that have medical campuses, components that are doing these kind of public-private ventures. So
maybe you can lease out a space to Andrews Institute. I mean, stuff like that. You know,
yeah.
If a floor of the building was for that, that'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah. So that's what I think the medical piece will be. But until we, get and that's certainly, if you look at the kind of projects the Catalyst Real Estate Group has done, they've done medical facilities, small medical facilities like this. And then do you want to go to the second one? The hotel, on the hotel side, I don't have, all I've seen is in the master plan that they have a hotel plan next to the arena. I didn't see any details on it being there, but I've seen other universities have ground leases with hotel developments, and they do generate money for the university. So that seems to me to be another potential part.
Seems like the farthest down the line of the different things you were talking about. You spoke on the $500 million in bonds or possibly. I don't think people kind of realize, because people talk a lot about the size of Florida State's endowment. We've talked a lot about it on this show, how we rely on the TV money for the year-to-year cost of doing business. And we'll talk later about how they already have figured in how much more money it's going to cost to compete in the Big 10 once we hypothetically get over there. But what are these bonds that they're sitting on? And one thing we talk about here is, like, I don't think people realize, win or lose this case, it's just about how much money it's going to cost. And Florida State, even if it does cost $500 million, they're prepared to do that. And I guess those bonds is one big time way to do so. Yeah.
So the bonds, and I like coming on these shows and hearing the feedback, because sometimes I don't maybe communicate as clearly as I should when I put this out. So the bonds, they do have $500 million in projects active that they want to build. So they were on the process to issue those bonds for stadium construction, the football operations center, and let's see, the third thing is they're going to refinance some old bonds. They're borrowing at like 4% right now, so they probably were trying to, maybe they had a bond that was at 6%,
which is better than any private company can get.
That's like what is that 2006 mortgage rate like area right there?
Yeah. I was just hearing that, and my head just went, what? Oh,
yeah.
It's good to be a big university.
It really is.
It's big. It's great to be in the state of Florida. And I mentioned one thing, if right now the way the bonds are structured is they're going to use the revenue from the football tickets and things to pay these things back. if the state of Florida came in and said, you know what, you can use the system-wide revenue of the Florida state system. And this has happened at California State University did this for San Diego State University when they did their football stadium. When the whole university system puts their balance sheet behind a bond financing versus the revenue from the potential tickets of the football stadium, your interest rate drops because there's so much more security by having, you know, the backing of a $5 or $6 billion university system versus having just the revenue from the tickets. So watching the bond financing, they need 500 million, but if the interest rate drops or the university puts their balance sheet behind it, it could drop the interest rates to where instead of being able to borrow 500 million, maybe they can borrow 550 million, 570 million. So they'd have that kind of an increment above the 500 million that they could then apply to the exit fee. So that's how the bond structure was working.
And guys, feel free, Jen, Tony, if y'all have any questions, because I'll pepper them. I can keep them coming all night. But,
I know you
for
can.
sure. If
And
y'all
it's
have
your-
any questions or anything, feel free to speak up and ask
Look,
them for sure.
one thing
I
I was
could
gonna
go with questions for Bill all night.
Yeah, I was
Me
gonna
too.
say, like, it's George's birthday. This is his like dream episode. He was so excited. So I'm gonna kind of let him do his thing. And if I have something, believe me, George, you know I'm gonna jump in if I have something.
That's
Well,
right.
and one of the things, George, we talked about last time, which, you know, Bill just reiterated how much cheaper schools can borrow. You know, we looked at that chart that showed the debt of universities, and we said, you know, the schools have access to capital for good projects. And I think Florida State's really showing that.
Yeah. And the third, well, you had mentioned up front how in their spreadsheets, in their the spreadsheets for Osceola, they do show about $100 million in over 2 years. That's just simply out of their cash flow. So they do have in their cash flow potentially another $100 million there, and that really hadn't hit me until maybe the second or third time I went through it. The last component, so we talked about the real estate, the catalyst real estate with the healthcare piece, the hotel potentially. So last on this media marketing piece of it, I don't know if we can pull up that one spreadsheet that I had identified earlier. Okay, so look at this spreadsheet. Isn't that great, Tony? Look at this. So I want to just kind of walk through this. There's probably, I think, 17 different spreadsheets in the documents. And this is one spreadsheet where it just picks pieces from all the other ones and says, okay, what is the new money that we're bringing through this marketing and this effort with the private equity group? And I'll just give you the bottom line. When you look down to the bottom, total net revenue, there's in 2024, it's about 8 million, then it goes to 11, then to 15, and then to almost 17 million. So that's new revenue from these initiatives that they have. So now I'll walk you through just basically what those pieces are. The first, they've got capital. So this must be an infusion of money, I would guess, from a private equity partner. Capital coming in, $2 million, or maybe that's the requirement. I should say that's probably the requirement. The management fee piece, that tells me that they have somebody that's managing this whole effort, a third party that's going to manage the growth of new revenue. So then the second one, the gross revenue, that's where the new revenue is coming in. So they've got a base, and then they have Doak NR, Tucker NR. That's Doak, that's the sports facility, new revenue, the football stadium. Tucker, the basketball arena, new revenue. And so they're showing out in 2025, adding 3.5 to 4.5 to 4.6 from the football facility for new revenue. In another spreadsheet, they're showing that they're having concerts that they're going to be holding. So there's some type of media group that's going to be scheduling concerts there using this facility. Tucker, the same thing. They're going to be using it for concerts and getting revenue that way. And then here they're showing concert sponsorship. So they'll have a sponsor for the various concerts. And DTC, I don't know what DTC is, but they have sponsorship revenue there. So that's the new revenue that they're seeing from Doak, and it also could be concessions. I should say it should Doak and Tucker. It could be concerts. It could be concessions.
Maybe Doak Champions Club.
Yeah, they have a legacy club that they have some revenue that that whole spreadsheet was redacted.
Okay, I see.
It might be rolling into this. So that's a good point. They had the legacy club donors sheets, and there was a lot of emails going back and forth about getting those donor lists and perfecting them and figuring out what they could project on that. So that might be rolling into the Doak new revenue piece of it. And the concession part of all the
I was about to bring that up. They're gonna redo, and I guess I'm not sure if they already have somebody that's won that bid, but if you know anything about Doak Campbell Stadium, it's kind of the Middle Ages when it comes to the nacho stands and the things of this nature. We already see the construction that he's talked about being tied in. And yeah, they're going to make a big move and really kind of modernize the concessions. It's already seen, and we've seen it happen in the Champions Club, but I guess for the overall complete thing, they're going to make some money there as well.
Yeah, I think this the concession sheets in these spreadsheets were completely blacked out. So I'm guessing that's part of the that there's a company coming in to run concerts, run concessions, market premium seating in basketball and football. There were a lot of redacted sections on premium seating for football and basketball where there could be more money. So that seemed to be the set of things that they were looking at to manage up from a baseline to create new revenue. And if you can create, new revenue of $16 million a year, that that could finance quite a bit, hundreds of millions of dollars off of that.
Absolutely, I have no doubt. I'm really surprised, and one thing I might have been disappointed about, and maybe that's what DTC could be in there, is Wi-Fi. Seems like they could sell naming rights of some sort somewhere down the line, and get Wi-Fi all the way around. I think they've already got it in the Champions Club to some extent, but yeah, I'm sure they could probably do a deal there as well.
Do you really want Wi-Fi in the stadium though? Because then people can film.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I wouldn't.
There may be some things that get filmed or whatever that you wish it didn't, but selfishly, no. Especially now that we're doing this, I would absolutely love it. But yeah, it's just kind of tough because the 4G, even when the game's over, for like an hour and a half after you leave the stadium, it's nuts. You can't even use your phone just because so many people, when you've got 80,000 people packed into that tiny spot, the towers can't keep up. But we've talked a lot about all the different ways to raise money, and we talked a little bit about the private equity side. But can you
like the Rose Bowl back in 2000?
Yeah, but I'm curious what that looks like, and what evidence you really found there as far as any particular partners. I know you mentioned that they had brought in JP Morgan, and maybe Tony can help us here, but how does a school really go out there, and how do they know the number until they've kind of settled? We don't really know until they make a settlement how many bonds you need to sell, how much you need to go finance through JP Morgan, whether you need to reach out to this person or that.
That's where JP Morgan comes in. I actually used to do this stuff for Credit Suisse. It feels like a lifetime ago on high yield bonds, and those were junk bonds, unlike these bonds for casinos. But these are much higher grade bonds. But I mean, the big thing is that's where JP Morgan, I imagine, was adding value. The other thing is, remember, Florida State is a huge organization, so you have a lot of really smart finance people that work for your school already. Unless you're Arizona, where apparently they just lost $250 million on a spreadsheet. I still don't quite know how that happened. But
sounds like the Pentagon.
Yeah, exactly. But they they have a lot of smart folks doing that, and that's where the advisors come in. And it sounds like from the documents Bill's got, that they had a lot of really good advice. The guys at JP Morgan are awesome. They know what they're doing.
And I think the media companies, there are several media companies I know working at the minor league baseball level that are buying teams and turning the baseball stadiums into concert venues. The name of the really active group is escaping me. It's like Live
Nation.
Live Nation, yeah.
Mhm.
So it could be a Live Nation type that's coming in. I know that they have a couple firms that they've been talking with that have entertainment components that they have exchanged letter of intents with, and I think only one of them is remaining. DTC equals dope concerts. Oh, okay.
Could be.
Okay. Oh, wait, I had a question for Tony.
Yeah.
So since you worked on high yield bonds, and this was something from my past that I thought might be applicable here, but I don't remember all the details of it. We had in doing infrastructure bonds for large real estate developments for the infrastructure, we'd have a series of bonds that traditional investors would buy, and then the developer himself would have a second series of bonds, like a Series B, that they would buy themselves. They would buy the tax-exempt bonds. And the reason I asked that question is with this kind of bifurcated bond structure where a sophisticated investor is buying at a higher interest rate because they're kind of the second tranche or the second tier of bonds that are paid. Is there a scenario like that, or maybe something else where Florida State boosters, high net worth boosters, could be buying bonds that maybe weren't the didn't get the really lowest interest rate?
I mean, you could, the issue you come back to that I always sort of come back to with a lot of these boosters is when you talk about like institutional investors, you're talking about folks that want a return,
right?
Versus boosters tend to be folks that, are more willing to give. And so they don't necessarily need as much return. The problem I would think with if you want to do like a second tranche, maybe if you had like boosters or whatever, you could do it at a lower rate, rather than usually your second tranche would be at a higher rate.
Mm-hmm.
But if these people were more liking you, they could maybe, I guess, do it at a lower rate and maybe get people to buy in. But then again, then you start talking about, well, if people are just sort of almost loaning you money, is this really just planned giving? What are they doing there?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but like planned giving, universities work with people that are going, they say, okay, I'm probably going to die in 20 years. You can have this amount of money when I'm dead, but I'm going to keep making money off it until I die. And so and that's where a lot of that stuff's in endowments. A lot of it's really complicated. They cut deals with people. They're like, okay, you give us the money now and we'll give you the interest, for the rest of your life. And then we keep it when you're done. There's a lot of complicated stuff in that. But I would think with the universities, again, you come back to like, there's sort of a line between the donors and the people that are there to make money. And the thing that I really like about what Florida State's doing here is it seems like, again, whether it's Live Nation, whoever the concert people are, the hotel people, the facility management people, you guys are bringing in people who are going to make money, right? But they're going to do it better than you could do on your own. And so, where I worry about stuff is when I hear people talk about like bringing in private equity people, like they think they want money, but it's not necessarily something that they can't do better on their own.
I always think a good analogy is if people watch Shark Tank. So you have people that walk in, they've got an idea, but they need the help of a shark to kind of scale up their business, bring it to a bigger market. They had the idea, they've got the asset, they've got maybe the patent, but they need somebody else to kind of supercharge the idea. And that to me is kind of what Florida State's doing strategically. They've got a couple different business lines where they're going to potential investors and trying to get upside from their management expertise.
I love it, man. And that's kind of the difference. That's been the big difference. Florida State brought in Michael Alford, brought in Coach Norvell. Michael Alford kind of revolutionized the booster department before he becomes the AD. You get a lot of minds in line and thinking, along the same lines. You bring in experts, you go consult the right people, you hire JP Morgan, you get these things done. We've talked a little bit about the different revenue lift, the plans, the hidden ones that are redacted, all that stuff, but we haven't talked about the sort of forecasted expenses that you've uncovered. And I think that might be extremely kind of relevant here. And as it pertains to what I was hitting at, when of all these things, it kind of hints at how we're going, to why, they're getting everything done to go to the Big Ten ahead of time. And when I look at these things, $50 million of expenses added in 25, $40 million added in 2026. They've got coaching salaries, like, to a pretty large degree figured in. All those things to me point to, okay, yeah, they're prepared to go to the that's just what it says to me, but I'm curious to hear what you've got there on uncovering that stuff, what it looks like to you, and also Jen and Tony's opinions on how that really just says Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten. Because that's what it says to me.
Yeah, and in addition to that, in the bond documents, they clearly say that these, they identify conference revenue distributions, and they have language that says the ACC or any future conference that the university may join. And they didn't have that in their previous bond issues. That's new to this series of bond issues.
Guys,
I'll let TJ go first.
Sorry, you guys were cutting out for a sec. Can you repeat that?
No, just all these costs in here, like I was just talking about in your article that you wrote there, Bill. You have all these specific line items: $40 million for 2025, and then to 2026. All these things that pop up along the timeline of when Florida State was supposedly, like we've been reporting, a lot of people reporting now. The whole nation is kind of caught on. Florida State's headed to the Big Ten, and just kind of how those things line up with those dates. And I know you're not a big Florida State guy, but Jen, Tony, whoever wants to speak on that.
One thing I would add, though, is I think those are costs that you need to spend anyway.
Yeah.
Like one of the things. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Bill.
They did have one, they did have some stuff on more travel expenses. So their travel expenses were going up. That would, that'd be a clue. It was a couple $1 million a year. That would be some indication that they're going to be traveling to different locations than they currently do.
Mm-hmm. But one of the things too, and this was something I noticed with the UCLA things, is that a lot of the stuff that UCLA was calling like expenses for going to the Big Ten were things that UCLA really needed to be already spending on.
Well, that's kind of the point. That's why we're suing the ACC, and why because we're not in a position to do those things. But it's like all of a sudden in 2025, why is it that all of a sudden in 25 these things that you need to do, they're getting done? Why is it that year?
And you guys,
why is it not 2024? Why wasn't it 23?
No matter what's happening, because sometimes that stuff takes strategic planning, it takes resources, it takes institutional buy-in. I mean, quite honestly, a lot of this stuff, and with UCLA's case, it was stuff like student health, mental health, student meals, and I was like, well, you guys should be doing that anyway. And so they're blaming it. By the way, this is not unique to Florida State or to UCLA. Like, companies do this all the time. Anything they need to do anyway, they try to blame on a merger. Like, oh, we just had to get a new building there. And it's like, because they can throw it on the merger expense. But with you guys, I look at a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, and it's not just Big Ten. It's be competitive, because even if for whatever reason, if you don't go anywhere, and I want you guys to, I think it's time for you guys in the ACC to like stop snipping and move on from each other. Like, you guys are like a couple that needs to be broken up.
Absolutely.
But even if you don't, like, I think the things that you guys are doing put you in a place to maintain a national power level that is, quite, and don't come from me, guys, I mean this in a good way for Florida State, leaves you in a good position. Like, these are the stuff that you guys need to be doing anyway. Yeah. So I think it's a good thing. And quite honestly, some of the stuff are things that, if you guys run your school well, and you get your Coach Norvell's got your football program back on track, there's lots of modeling that would show that you can use that visibility and that excitement to bring in, new students, more out-of-state students, all kinds of stuff. You're already booming in research. You got a lot of stuff booming. If they need to throw an extra couple of $1 million or $20 million even at the athletic department, they really could.
Absolutely, and it's long overdue. Go ahead,
you started by mentioning the $50 million and the $40 million. I mean, those were clearly aberrations. there were, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 million in that line item, and then boom, 50, boom, 40.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that reads like an exit fee, because that's the one thing you're going to have to pay somewhere in that range. And then the grant of rights release, that's another different piece. I didn't see anything on that, but all these things that they're doing, as Tony mentioned, it's really good, because if you can get that exit fee down, you've got yourself in a great position going forward to have the resources to compete at the highest level. And it's not going to stop. I think the competition for money, the need for money is going to increase as you get into a smaller and smaller group of schools that are competing at the national level. There'll be more money, but you also need to be paying salaries. You'll be employee or athlete salaries. There's just going to be all sorts of things, stress put on every university to try to continue to compete, and you're taking several steps in that direction with this project.
Absolutely. And I didn't we've been really soaking in the information. Thank you so much, Bobby, for the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you for the compliments on the shirt, all the happy birthdays. We really appreciate you guys. We just got over 200 live viewers right now, so we're having a blast. We've got experts here in different subjects, but we can't not talk about, and we'll get back into the finances and everything from the article. Again, that's billfarley.substack.com. So you can go check out these 2 amazing articles he did from this FOIA dump, and all breaking down these finances. And you can draw your own conclusions. A lot of this stuff is redacted. We're talking about how the tea leaves shape. And like we talked about, the aberration of all of a sudden $40 and $50 million you're covering for. What is that? Does that line up with the ACC's pay model and where they could possibly be around 2026, 27, $50 million? Yes, it does. All the things line up. Florida State is on the track for AAU status. Oh, they're doing this giant medical research facility, where they're going to lease out to this other company and be rubbing shoulders with this person and that person. It all makes sense. As far as the suit, and Bill kept pointing out, like, we got to find out what's the settlement going to be, how much are you going to have to raise. All these things matter, for some of these things, but they have the plans in place. The latest thing to happen, ACC has filed their response to Florida State's motion to dismiss in North Carolina. And, if you've been following with us, this is how this thing has gone. Florida State, planned to file. They had a big board of trustees meeting. They filed in Florida. Well, before they could do it, the day before, ACC files a preventative measure in North Carolina. So then it's been back and forth with the motions to dismiss, the rebuttals to the motions to dismiss. And really, Florida State has done an amazing job with providing precedent, legal precedent, providing areas in the grant of rights that specifically say, for example, that it has to be held in the member state when you're litigating these things. And all the ACC's cases are basically they're using, they weren't supposed. It's not, this information ain't supposed to come out. We got to seal it. We got to seal it. But their argument in the Florida case, as far as the motion to dismiss, what they've talked about in North Carolina is literally arguing against their argument. It's the exact opposite. So basically, like, they're just taking a 50-50. Like, if anybody, I don't know how that works with judges, if they're allowed to be swayed by any other ongoing cases or statements in other cases. But if you read the ACC's words in the Florida case of, why it should be dismissed, and then you read why they're saying it shouldn't be dismissed in North Carolina, they're literally contradicting themselves, and they're using the same exact points just on other sides, and it's all just me. Just it's kind of stuff you don't see work. There's not actually meat there on the bone like Florida State's arguments. It's hilarious, and I don't. Their thing is, we all knew they were going to file it, so it was all right that we put it first. But Florida State shouldn't have been able to put it first. It's like they're just mad that they lost. It's a whole thing. But I'm really curious. I don't know if Jen got to read into that, and maybe we can pull it up. But it's really, there's not even worth pulling up. It's a lot of mumbo jumbo. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Can I give you guys one strategic advice from the USC world?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys don't want the ACC to go away. You want the ACC to continue, you want Miami and all those other people
absolutely
to stay in the ACC while you go to the Big 10 or wherever.
Yes.
Let me tell you right now, the U.S.
100%. You just read my mind. I want them all to suffer. Absolutely. Continue to suffer.
Them all to stay, so you want the ACC to stay strong. When the Pac-12
Absolutely.
blew up, a lot of the USC people were like, "Oh God, just when we thought we were finally done with Oregon, look who showed up."
Yep.
So, whether it's Clemson, whether it's North Carolina, we see rumors all the time of everybody in the world. I'm here in North Carolina State, whatever. You want all of them to just happily stay in their Tobacco Road basketball loving
100%. 100%.
Like,
stay there.
Florida
Make
State
less money.
fans become ACC fans because you want the ACC to succeed. You don't want it to blow up. You don't want the Big 12 to come and tear at them and make a mess, and then you get stuck with a bunch of the folks that you just tried to leave behind. So that's my personal advice from the Trojans to you guys. We're stuck with Oregon now forever. Just when we thought they were going.
We're not SEC humpers. We cannot sit here and cheer for a conference. It's just not in our DNA. We don't do it. We can't do it. But I do hope it sticks around because I want them all to suffer forever. All of them. Every last one of them.
Well,
y'all go suffer.
I think they'll be happy. They want to be the All-Carolina Conference. They want to do their thing.
I don't think so. They're living in a different world. They really think that if Florida State or Clemson leaves, they're going to be just fine. There's no big deal. They're going to still, they'll still rake. They're not going to rake in the same money. ESPN is going to change the deal. I hate to break. Maybe I shouldn't say that because I do want the ACC to stick around.
Well, but that could be part of what they negotiate. One of the things, and for some reason we all seem to have forgotten this, but remember, as part of the whole Big 12 getting their big extension, they let Texas and Oklahoma go. And the economics of that, they actually hid because it's fascinating. They're actually paying almost nothing to get out. They gave the impression they were paying like $50 million each, but they're not. They're actually just foregoing revenue after they've already lost.
So I want to mention this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was going to say, I sent this to Jordan. I'm not sure if he can pull it up or not, but one of these claims, and it's kind of what I butchered there explaining to it. So I wanted to go back and read it again. But basically what Florida State is alleging in their motion to dismiss is that the president, I believe it was Wilcox at the time, signed this thing, but he didn't have the right, he didn't have the ability to sign away all these things. It needed to be the board of trustees. But basically what this article, the fourth article thing that ACC filed today in their amended complaint says, oh, well, in the document, it says that, going forward, the president can sign. It doesn't need the board of trustees signature. So basically, the president got with them and said, okay, put this in here that I can sign it. And the board of trustees, and then signed it. And that's the basis of their argument. Tell me how that makes any sense whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'd have to defer to the North Carolina contract lawyers. Some of that.
Yeah.
So,
I will say some of your arguments, and I say this lovingly, Seminoles, some of your arguments and legal filings sound to me like they're written for reporters more than they're written for judges.
Yes.
And they sound to me like they are more likely to get you to a good settlement than they are to have you win litigation 5 years from now.
Absolutely. And that's kind of my point. That's kind of my point to what the ACC is doing. It's like, there's no fruit there whatsoever to what they're saying. It's just because we signed it, it's law now. That's not what the law is. You got to point to precedents, and I see it from the Florida State side, but I see zero.
But Florida State's also citing like random news article. It's very well written for reporters.
Yep. So this is it's a filing for the court of public opinion, right? So the ACC, when they lose the court of public opinion, I get it. They may not lose in the court of law, but if you lose in the court of public opinion, reporters, other news stations are going to say this has to end. This has to end. This is
What it's all
terrible.
about.
It's a terrible look. And that will make other schools jumpy. And guess what happens when other schools get jumpy? They're going to start doing the same thing. The ACC doesn't want that. And I really think that's a brilliant strategy by Florida State right now, honestly.
Yeah, that's why I think you guys are creating and people disagree with me. I've had like ACC people get mad at me. I've been saying the last few days.
Oh my goodness.
That I think that they need to get you out of there. Like,
Yep.
They need to just go back to being their happy self. They need you out.
Yep.
Because I think that you're causing more problems. I think you're strategically causing more problems than benefits for them. But part of that is, and I am not in the room, I can't predict, but like they need to work with ESPN on that, just like the Big 12 worked with ESPN on getting rid of Texas and Oklahoma.
And Jen made a great point. And it goes to, what Tony was saying, that I immediately got a little defensive about, but it's like, it is, what he's saying is absolutely right. But Jen's also right. Like, we kind of all know this thing isn't going to actually go to discovery into a full trial and all the way down to a verdict. So that is what a lot of this stuff
But it'd be
is.
so fun
But
if it
within
did.
that, if the ACC and ESPN can get it sealed, we would be, it'd be a can of worms. But I don't see from either side necessarily each one getting sealed or dismissed on either one, North Carolina or Florida. It's just gonna this PR battle is gonna decide
what's gonna happen if it goes to the judges.
Yep. And that's not a risk most attorneys want to take, right? You kind of want to come out in the middle where really no party is really thrilled with the outcome, I guess. That's kind of a win for both sides. But I don't. Nobody wants to go to discovery. Nobody does. Nobody does. Not when you're powerful, not when you're rich, not when you're important, because a discovery is a fishing expedition and anything can be found out. Please see John Gruden. I mean, I'm just saying anything can happen and nobody really wants that. And so any attorney worth their salt will be like, look, they want out. You don't like them anyway. Let's get this done. Let's get this done.
Speaking of discovery, Bill has all of the best stuff on his Substack of the Pac-12, like text messages, emails from presidents. It's amazing.
That's what they do not want, buddy.
Nobody does. And especially these, I mean, I'm just saying, everybody knows that like boosters or people high up in organizations, they can be a little messy. They can be a little, look, let's not be, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but sometimes people can be messy.
I'm about to accuse the ACC.
And
that is a good word, Jen.
It's messy. It can be messy, and you can get into some personal stuff sometimes. I'm not accusing. I'm not saying. I'm not, whatever. Allegedly, unless it's not allegedly, anything I say is true until it's not. Okay, there we go. I'm doing the whole thing. But it's so for anybody to say that the ACC doesn't need to settle is insane. And the ACC knows that. They know that. The head of do you think Jim Phillips wants his text messages out there? I don't.
Yeah, I don't think Jim Phillips he's a figurehead. I don't think he's brought in for damage control in this thing. But here's what I'm going to say. We've talked about on this show in the past, the situation with Notre Dame. They acted like, we're going to make them a member. We all know about that. We all suspect that in 2020, Notre Dame got a bigger share than everybody else these.
Are you telling me, the USC fan from Michigan, that Notre Dame's being a pain in the ass?
I think you can relate here. And talk about following you. Wait till I tell you Notre Dame might be coming to the Big 10 to follow you guys over there too. We talked about it a lot.
And by the way, I'll tell you. So I said this the other day, and people got mad at me. The best thing for the ACC, I think,
is to get Notre Dame.
I could be totally wrong. If you took Florida State and Notre Dame to the Big 10, nobody else is even close in evaluation.
Yep, absolutely.
So there's not going to be a Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina State, Georgia Tech, whatever. I almost think that would be stabilizing for the ACC. Yep. Because I don't think the SEC. I mean, we hear, the SEC wants this. There's no way. Have you guys seen the viewership numbers on Virginia, North Carolina? And I love Virginia. I love North Carolina. I have dear friends that went to each. I've taught on the campus in North Carolina. Go Heels! But like, I know their viewership numbers. They're not twice Oregon's. Okay,
They're not averaging 4.4 million. I can promise you that. Like a Florida State, they're not top 5.
By the way,
another thing.
Can I add one thing on viewership numbers for
Yeah.
you guys and your fans? You owe your AD a thank you.
We all do. Michael Alford's that guy.
But he scheduled you guys. I was doing some TV analysis the other day. He scheduled you games people watch. So while everybody else is playing Austin P and San Jose State, you're playing LSU and Florida. I mean, you guys you played Notre Dame in like a week 1 or week 0. You guys
and Sundays and Mondays when you're the only team on TV too.
Yeah,
absolutely. I can't agree more.
Scheduling, and by the way, that's daring because you went and beat LSU those games. But like, it's a little bit daring, when you guys were having some bad years to schedule those games. Are we going to get our clocks cleaned by LSU? And you went and beat them in huge games. And like, but that's one of the big differences in your scheduling or in your TV viewership is you played games people wanted to watch.
Absolutely. And one of the things I was trying to get to right there, and you bringing that makes a great point, because half of the conference, 3/4 of the conference, they don't do that at all. And one thing that's funny, and a shout out to my guy, Gris Frazier at Spear Addicts. If you didn't check out his show last night, it's going nuts. Go check it out. But if you saw that thing he kind of hinted at, and it's something we talk about this year, it's like, when you look at these schools, it's like, okay, they don't spend all this money. Your Wake Forests, your Dukes, your this is out of the world. But and you guys know, y'all aren't just Florida State like us, especially you, Tony. You look at the money that goes into these different things. They sure have like really nice football only facilities and all these things. And when you break it down, it's not the academic money like we think. So it's just, there's a lot of stuff. There's just a lot of things that if you got into the books, if you got into the ACC, if you ever got to that Discovery, the stuff between Notre Dame, why are these other schools just so happy? Why are they so on board, refusing, just spreading this propaganda about Florida State? Why are they doing this? They're nasty. And why all of a sudden the flip? Why all of a sudden now is UNC and Wake Forest on board when they were so opposed, so vehemently and poisonously exposed? It's like there's something there. Whatever it is, I'm not going to, say any more about it, but it is what it is. Like I said, there's shit out there that they're never going to let it come to pass. It's a Hail Mary attempt. ESPN, ACC, they want to get this thing sealed. If they can get it sealed, they'll have a shot, but it's going to be open in Florida or North Carolina, not both. They're not going to get both. It's not going to happen.
Well, the other thing I would say, though, about the ACC, remember, the ACC has like its wonderful old school culture. And
under the swaying pine trees and all that shit.
Yeah, but you guys were never really a part of that. It's fine. Like, it's fine.
No.
You're never really a part of that. One of the things, though, that I hope for the ACC is that they don't do the dumb things that the PAC did, because the PAC had a wonderful, its own little culture.
They told the Big 12, we're too good for you. ACC better pony up. They better get real, what's the word I'm looking here? They better get humbled real quick and be willing to merge or do a AFC, NFC situation, because it's going to a P2. And I know that isn't the schedule of the chat, but people have been talking about it in the comments. It's going to a P2, and they better do something there, because like you said, it'll be the Pac-12 2.0.
There's a couple things from the breakup at the Pac-12 that, FSU fans probably didn't get in the weeds in, but we didn't have a media rights deal. So we didn't have an ESPN trying to hold on to us or a Fox trying to hold on to us. We had ESPN and Fox on the outside trying to pick us apart. Mm-hmm. So you had ESPN giving the Big 12 4 slots. Just they paid $30 million for all the existing Big 12 schools. They said, and here's $30 million each for 4 additional slots. Go hunting, right? So they were able to go and pick off the 4 corner schools once the potential media deal with the Pac-12 fell apart, which ESPN or Fox didn't bid on. So you had them working with Apple, the Pac-12 working with Apple, while ESPN and Fox were kind of in the background, waiting to make their offers. Fox came in and offered money to half shares to Washington and Oregon. And there was one of your commenters, Tony Wellish, I think he mentioned there about a loan that Fox gave. So Fox gave the ability for Oregon and Washington to borrow $10 million a year to go from 30 million so they could get $40 million a year, and then that $10 million would be paid back from future revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I mention this is in the background that you're different. You're a little different. You've got ESPN maybe trying to hold on to you. They might be okay with you going to the SEC, but you're going to a Fox conference might be an issue with them. So it might, they might hold on a little tighter. Fox, on the other hand, might pony up money and give you the full slot, plus help perhaps with some of your breakup stuff. So media companies are back there, and that'd be the great part of Discovery is you could maybe get to some of that.
If I was the ACC, because they ruined it for the SEC and getting Florida State. They ruined it.
If I was the ACC, I know there seems there, and I've read what you guys have put in comments about renewals and all that. But if I were the ACC, way more important to me than your exit money is ensuring that contract, which is more money than the Big 12, by the way, that contract is good to go through 2036, which I'm told by the TV people, and I'm not a TV person, but I'm told by the TV people that it's a very profitable contract for ESPN. Mm-hmm. So if I was ESPN, I would work it out with the ACC to, whatever they need to do, or however they need to work it out, lock in the future of the ACC, and then quite honestly, your exit money is just gravy if they get. I'm sure they'll get something. But just like Texas and Oklahoma, the Big 12, one of the smart things that Brett Yormark did, Brett Yormark sacrificed a whole lot of money off Texas and Oklahoma that he could have held on to in order to get them out and stabilize the Big 12's future. And by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but it came out 2 years later how little Texas and Oklahoma are actually forfeiting. They're actually forfeiting almost nothing, according to newer reports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was ESPN, the rumors. Now, this is just, rumors here, speculation. Allegedly, kind of attacked that deal, tampered, this and that. Like you said, got them guys to the SEC. And the problem is they've done all these things. They gave them the extension.
They gave them everybody won. The Big 12 got its future locked in. Texas and Oklahoma got out.
Yep.
ESPN got Texas and Oklahoma. Fox got some money. Everybody won in that game.
Absolutely.
I would love to see something for the ACC where everybody wins.
I went ahead and opened up the phone lines. We're almost at an hour. This has been an amazing conversation. We've been through a lot, but I wanted people to have a chance to ask a question to Bill or Tony or Jen or myself. We're up to almost 240 people in the chat. It's been amazing. We've got people gifting memberships. Y'all are amazing. It's been the best birthday I've had in a long time so far. But you're live on the Renegade Rundown with your boy George, Tony, Bill, and Jen.
George, hey guys, this is Nick. Happy birthday, George. Hope you've had yourself a good dinner at least, or have something lined up.
Yeah, we got a good dinner tomorrow, man. After Voice of College Football, we're gonna go get us some steaks as a family. But what you got for us?
Nice. Yeah, I've got a question I haven't heard anyone else pose. The Seminole Tribe, as far as private equity, we could get like this, Hard Rock something. It just hasn't been mentioned anywhere. I don't know if the tribe is disinterested or no one's kicked the tires, or if they have that much equity. So I just don't know.
Very interesting question. Let's talk about that because, they sponsor the entire NFL stadium down there. I'm not sure exactly how many casinos and different things they have. We know there's a wonderful relationship there. One thing we forgot to mention on the last show, they've got those turquoise, amazing jerseys, the Seminole Heritage jerseys. So I don't know if they're going to actually wear them in a game or if it was what the deal was, but those were, football jerseys made to go over. So that's really cool. Do you think, I don't know anything about how the Indian tribes operate and if they would be able to operate in a business manner with a state school like that and everything else, but it's certainly interesting. Say that again.
Do they essentially have like a sovereign wealth fund for the tribe? I don't know anything about them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yep. I'm not sure if anybody has any insight there.
I know there are Indian tribes. From my experience in California, there are Indian tribes that have real estate investments outside the sovereign lands. So if the tribe was to get involved, it would likely be as just a cash investor, and then the expert, the equity firm, the private firm would take their money as the cash for the equity investment, and then they would manage that investment for them. So they wouldn't be an active part of managing the operations or whatever facilities. But there are tribes that own hotels, that invest in hotels. Both, obviously, they have gaming activities, but they invest in real estate, at least in California. I imagine to be the same opportunity for them as well.
Yeah, towards the end, or yes, it says 2020, the Seminole Tribe established a sovereign wealth fund to invest in commercial real estate properties. Now, where does that sound familiar there, Bill?
Well, yes. So you can. They could be a silent investor in healthcare facilities.
It's a great question.
Hotels on campus. They could be a silent investor on media rights, and maybe they fall into the category of an investor whose returns are not the return expectation aren't as high maybe as someone else. But
although you have to be careful too, because sometimes those guys want such good returns that you almost don't want to work with them.
Right. You don't want to mess up
but
shit where you work type thing.
I get it, but like they get such good returns because the taxes.
Yeah, I'm way too dumb to know how that works, but if there's some way to make something beneficial, that would be really cool. And I'm sorry we don't have more information, but who knows, maybe an article coming on one of these Substacks between billfarley.substack.com and renegadereport.substack.com.
That's actually a really good point
and talk about it. Some more.
I love that question with the Seminole Tribe. Is that something that they're willing to, broach to them because there's such a good relationship there? I don't know. I don't really think Florida State needs to do that. I don't think they want to broach that topic, honestly, with them, because I think the relationship is so good. I think they have everything in place that they really need right now, and I think they know where they're going. I think they know what they need. I think they know what they need to do, and I think they know the amount of money. And I'm sorry, where was all this equity and bonds? Because I really thought it was a chicken farmer paying for everything at Florida State. Am I?
That was a rumor for a while, for sure.
Wait, was that not true? Because it was on the internet. I thought it was somebody in Delaware had a bunch of chickens. Was that not true?
Oh. I don't reckon it was. Brad Powers throws in a $4.99 super chat and says, "Happy birthday, George. Jack fired for Jen." I don't know. Maybe what does that mean, Jen? He says Jack fire for you. What does that mean?
I love me some Jack Daniel's Tennessee cinnamon whiskey, man. And we call it Jack Fire here in Memphis. So
okay, that's what it is. They call it Jack Fire Memphis. Well, we got the phone line up there, 850-495-1906. If you have a question for Bill or Tony or Jen, myself, and while we're waiting on that, Bill, Tony, is there anything? We're an hour and 3 minutes in here. We're just kind of to the point where we're going to have fun and open conversation. Is there anything particular pertaining to Florida State that piques your interest, or anything that we've missed maybe on your article or anything before we before we reach the end here?
Well, I'll just with kind of looking toward, you get in this super conference, you have to start paying wages to athletes.
We could go there.
I think the 24 or 30 schools that form this super league are going to start to take on a lot of similar issues that NFL teams take on, Major League Baseball teams take on, and that is you're going to be thankful that you're in a large state with a multi-trillion-dollar economy, and that you're in the state capital, that you're one of a couple schools that are in this power group within a state, that you've got a lot of NFL teams, major league teams, that you're a sports-oriented state. And that's the kind of that's the kind of school that's going to succeed, I think, going forward, because you are going to start to tap resources from the state, from local governments, from hotel taxes. That it's going to go the same way, where you're going to need financial resources. And being in Florida versus being in Oregon, I mean, Love the Ducks. Actually, I hate the Ducks. Love the Ducks. But,
You tried, man.
No beads.
Fuck a duck.
but they, when they lose Nike, they're going to be done because they are a small state, small market with a $50 million subsidy and more. Probably more like $70 million from a corporation. So if you're in a small market, and I worked in Sacramento, we were a small market team. We were always struggling to get capital, find investors, find corporate sponsors. Being in a big state is going to be something that's going to really benefit Florida State and keep you at the top. But if you're in a small state, a small market, and you just made it into that top tier of universities, you're going to really struggle. Or like at UCLA, they just they're not interested in football.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I don't
sad.
know. I don't know about that because they just hired Eric Benamy, and I think that's the hire of the year, if you ask me.
It's a great opportunity for him, but it's
UCLA has the largest budget of any school in the country.
Yeah.
The largest total budget of any school in the country. And they refuse to give one. Not only do they refuse to give like an allocation to their athletic department, but they actually take remember, UCLA wants to win national championships, right? So like that costs money. I mean, UCLA has 140 national championships or whatever. They actually take the losses, and the school loans the athletic department money and charges it interest. That's like Bill Gates, telling Melinda Gates, you better find a way to pay your credit card bill, and I'm going to charge you interest. I mean, it's wild the way that UCLA's chancellor has handled their sports finances. I feel bad for Martin Jarmond. He's got a hard job.
They don't need any help. They don't need the brand of the school to drive admissions. A lot of schools really helps to have the brand to drive admission. University of Oregon, 60% out-of-state applicants, pretty low standards to get in. They need that brand to drive admissions. UCLA doesn't need any activity, any sports to drive admissions, and university presidents are kind of like owners for professional teams. The university president sets the tone, so they've got they got a Sterling. I think it's Don Sterling for this San Diego.
They do. They've got like a Don Sterling. That's a great example.
Yeah, LA Clippers, he just
grenade lobbed.
you like
Love
having teams come visit your school and play football and watch but you're not really in the game. I think Florida State's in a great position with such a large economy and a rabid fan base that you're going to be able to compete at the top.
I think the battle's end. I think we already talked about it with Michael Alford kind of coming in. I think the biggest thing and the biggest unreported on thing, it's not reported, but him coming in and revolutionizing that booster department before linking up and everybody coming together and bringing him in to be the AD. It really linked everything together, and Battle's End has done an absolute amazing job. People want to talk about high school recruiting, this portal, that. Florida State, when it comes to the portal, when it comes to retainment and doing deals and keeping their culture and everything sound in-house, it's unreal. They're elite. Maybe there's nobody that's done it better. So I think we'll be pretty prepared when it comes. If all of a sudden in the next couple of years, it very could go from student athlete to employee. I'm hoping we don't go all the way there to full out employees with W-2s and the whole 9 yards. But if it does, so be it. These kids, they've got to a point now that they're able to earn money. They're not going to go the other way with it. But you do get in a can of worms when you have a payroll, and you've got to
Let me tell you guys something
compete.
fascinating, though. So I've been doing some rereading of the documents from before the Pac-12. There was a different conference. The Pac-12 actually wasn't started until 1959. The old conference is called the Pacific Coast Conference. I was reading the writings of the presidents of the Pacific Coast Conference who were dead set against scholarships. They did not want to give scholarships to the players. And their arguments against giving scholarships to the players, verbatim, word for word, are the same arguments we have today about paying players. And it's the same argument, and it worked out just fine for scholarships.
Yeah, they just
You know, at Florida State, you have a lot of students that are employees. PhD students are getting paid. They contribute research to the university, so they get tuition credits and waivers because they add value to the university, and they have access. I don't know about Florida State. There are some universities where you have access to healthcare. You are a W-2 employee. You know, you have
down the road.
You have a payroll system that has students that are getting paid. So I don't think it's that big of a jump. I think some schools have them on stipends, but it's not a big jump to go from stipend to W-2s. So I think everything's in place to do it. Well, you know, and PhD students don't get paid. You know, the base might be $20 an hour or something in that range. And then they limit their hours that they enroll. They say, you know, you can't enroll in more than 9 hours because you've got a job to do, being a research assistant or a teacher's assistant, and you've got your own research. So they restrict your employment, outside employment. So I think the model's there for, I think, from the PhD student group to apply to athletes. And athletes, they add value, more value, I imagine, than the PhD students.
And another example, and I put this on Twitter and people got really mad at me, but I actually got like some great DMs from some economists who loved it. But I pointed out that one of our athletic departments has been paying all of its football players as employees since 1802.
Yeah.
And that's West Point.
Yeah.
And Navy since 1845 or whatever. And it works out just fine. You know, and again, now they're being paid by the military. And actually, Bill, I think you even said on one of the things, you were like, I forget who it was. Somebody said, how is that different than being paid by, the university? It's not that different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and think about all those jobs that are going to show up when all of a sudden there's a big old medical research facility that needs all those things you talked about, lab assistants, et cetera, down the road. It sure is cool. Again, guys, we've got the numbers scrolling across the bottom of the screen. If you've got any questions, get them in there. One thing that popped up that we saw, we like to make fun of Florida and Miami on this show a lot. It kind of goes with the theme of the show.
I do not. I am so nice, George. I don't know what you're talking about. I feel like I'm being attacked.
I do, but I'm heavy on the we sometimes. But no, what did y'all think about Florida bringing in Dan Enos? Is that going to solve all their issues?
Fast.
I don't know their issues well enough.
Well, I was kind of pointing that one for Jen, but she's having some issues up there. I'm not sure. Okay, usually she dives off the board headlong for this particular subject.
Is Dan Enos going to help Florida?
Is he going to be the difference?
Yeah. Is he going to be the difference? No, he's not going to be the difference. Look, Dan Enos, doesn't he get every head coach fired that hires him? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, he
So maybe Florida's playing the long game right now.
It's
maybe they're trying to get rid of Billy, by October instead of November. Like I don't really know. We all know that coaching staff isn't there for the long haul. No matter what their players want to say on that Bird app today, that they have a chance to win or to make it to a playoff.
I think what's going on there is Napier is like, oh, we've got this job that needs to be filled. Another person left. Okay, let's find a warm body who will fill this thing. And that's it. He doesn't. I think he's just begging them to fire him. I don't think you're going to see any big moves. I think there's conversations that are going on behind doors before these guys dip where he's like, dude, I can't guarantee you anything. Go get a job. Go find a job. This thing's over. I can't resign because I'm not going to get the buyout, but it is what it is. And I think this is just another one of those moves. I don't think it makes any difference.
I mean, that's the same conference that just gave new jobs to Hugh Freeze and Bobby Petrino. So,
don't get George started on Hugh Freeze on his birthday. Don't do it. George loves him some Hugh Freeze. He gets very upset with me because, I like to make fun of the fact that Auburn fan base made up a whole rumor about another coach, got him fired.
She also likes to make things up that aren't true that were never said.
What?
My
You were
My
very
favorite-
All I
upset.
said is
favorite
he's a
battle
decent
every year is
football
Auburn
coach.
versus
I
Auburn.
never abstained him from any of his misgivings. Just the guy, man, what he did at Liberty.
Look, you see,
I
he
thought
gets
he was
really
a
upset.
nut. I thought he was unstable. The guy was messaging me on Twitter when I was having a drug problem and like the worst time of my life. Like I'm talking shit to him in a Twitter message, and he's going back and forth with me, like for like hours, long paragraphs, and telling me all this stuff, giving me the whole spiel. And I'm like, dude, answer for your crime. You're saying all these things about Jesus and you're saying all these great things and how you're a changed man and you've changed your life, but you never admitted a crime. All you've ever did is maintained your innocence. So how the fuck have you changed? Excuse my language. But then he said all these things. He coached from a damn hospital bed. The guy was on the verge of dying. It's like Bob Barker up there with all his machines hooked to him, and coached the better game than Willie Taggart coached in his entire career from a hospital bed at Liberty. And he goes on to win conference championships. So
that's not a mountain to climb. I don't know.
I think Alabama lost their coach. Watch out for Hugh Freeze. The dude's a recruiter. However he does it, is neither here nor there. But the whole family Jesus thing, he's kind of practiced what he preached the last couple of years. That's all I'm saying. Maybe we're gonna have the Tiger Woods fallout soon, but it's looked pretty good.
All right, we can. It is safe to make fun of Bobby Petrino, though, right? That's like fair ground.
Oh no! I'm still down to make fun of Hugh Freeze, because what I said was, like, the fact that Auburn fans made up a rumor about Brian Harsin, that he, what I'm not going to say what the rumor was. Everybody knows what the rumor was, which was not true. They made it up. They fired him because of this rumor. And then for a morality clause, then they hired Hugh Freeze. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Those assholes deserve everything they get. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to continue to lose, because Hugh Freeze is going to do the same damn thing to them. I can't wait for it. I disagree with George.
That's Auburn. That's Auburn being Auburn. I always love listening to my Alabama friends talk about Auburn, because again, as a big kid who grew up in the Big Ten and spent my time in the Pac-12 and the Northeast, like I look at the SEC and I love watching them go back and forth against each other. It's a riot. And listening to my Alabama friends talk about Auburn is one of the funnier things ever.
Oh, it's great. And then you hear like Alabama come back at or Auburn come back at Alabama about, well, you did this and you did that. I mean, it's really fantastic. Like, I thought the Big Three hate was really fun. But it's kind of been a downer in the last couple of years, because Florida and Miami are just Florida and Miami. So it's not as fun, I don't think, as Alabama and Auburn seems to be, because poisoning trees and like shooting people after games is wild. Like, wild. And it happens like every year. I don't get it. Like, you don't see after like any rivalry games around that. Like, I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying shoot anybody. I'm just saying, like, you don't see these incidents, and you see it all the time in Alabama, Auburn, all the time.
Although I got a rude awakening. My very
Harvey
first
Updike was from Milton, Florida, man. It's such a pain, but it is. He graduated from my alma mater. Go Panthers.
He's still going. I told you. Look, we have a difference of opinion. And by the way, I live in Memphis, so Hugh Freeze, I was very well aware of. We'll just leave that there.
Now I got people attacking me on Twitter. Sam McCall plans to enter the transfer portal once the spring portal window opens in April. I quote tweeted it and I said, imagine that. It's almost as if ... You know what? Never mind. Well, apparently that was a big time shot at this kid, which I didn't mean to take any shot at the kid whatsoever. It's more about Mike Norvell and kind of the situation. But anyways, I'm taking a big shot at the kid, and I'm a big bad guy. But just so everybody knows, Sam McCall, best of luck to you out there. I think that's the best move possible for you. To stay at Texas A&M was a bad idea. You need to go somewhere and get a fresh start and let that athleticism take over and just work your way up. But just funny how people obsess over certain stuff. But
and
good luck with those spaces, buddy. Maybe you'll quit obsessing over me and Chris. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I wish fans wouldn't get angry about folks transfer, because just like when people change jobs, sometimes it's just the situation. It's not a good situation, and you want to get to a better situation, and they're kids. So now, maybe we'll soon have collective bargaining and contracts and those things that will solve, sort out a little bit of this. But at the end of the day, when you're a player on a team in a situation and things aren't working out, sometimes there's more stuff behind the scenes than we all know about.
Oh yeah, facts.
I mean, how long is did Sam McCall transfer after obviously not 2023, but he transferred after 2022, right?
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Okay, so this is going to be his third school
in 3 years. Yes, but
okay.
That's not.
So
that is a fact.
No, I'm not saying that. Here's where I'm going. So when he goes to Alabama or Tennessee, like it's rumored, will he be treated like DJU is? Because I'll wait for that.
Yeah, he was. But my kind of point, since we went down this road, is like Sam McCall was a 5-star, top 100 player, and he's the guy. Oh, you have to get these guys. You can't. It's like, well, a top 4-star is just a completely different player than a player that's one subjective point higher than them to make it to the 5-star status. It's just funny. We've talked on and on about all the bets and the people that talk crap about FSU's high school recruiting. There's people that get online and they look at that talent thing on 247 and on 3 that's takes 99% all high school recruiting and takes no into account the portal and retainment and all these things. It says Michigan's like one of the 15th, 16th, talented team in the country. Florida State's like 20, all these things. If you believe that, whatever, keep staying in the past. The ACC is going to be the best conference in college football in 2 or 3 years. Maybe you'll believe that too.
Well, that's if you guys know this, Oregon loves the offseason natties.
Oregon.
Well, they don't have real ones, so they have to love off-season natties. That's kind of how that goes,
Yeah,
I mean,
perfect, right? Oregon fans hate us too.
The O means 0. I believe me, I'm right there.
I love
with
you
you
guys. We got to do this more often.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with that one.
Too much fun.
Oregon fans are Miami fans, but Miami fans have 1980s trophies, right? So. It is what it. Oh, I see somebody in the chat. George, do you see it?
Do we have a caller? He's not just in the chat. We've got his chat up there, man. They love the off-season fashion shows. Our guy Tiny Hat comes in, man. I just gave him a bit of a rant on Hugh Freeze, man. The lines are open if you can. We're on here for another 10, 15, 20 minutes. We'll see. Again, we got Bill Farley from billfarley.substack.com. Go check out his articles on Project Osceola, financing Florida State's future. He's got 2 big articles, a giant FOIA dump. The first hour of this thing is a lot of us talking and going through that. And, of course, Tony Altimore, a.k.a. at TJ Altimore on Twitter, and everybody else. Man, this has been so much fun. Much fun. So
I know you heard this one, but I have to say it. So what do Oregon State and Oregon fans have in common?
0 titles.
I know it's not Oregon. I guess a 0 in there.
Neither one went to Oregon.
Yeah.
That is very true.
I love that.
That is very true.
That is cool.
Really funny.
I don't think I ever realized this. I didn't realize Oregon was kind of the Miami of the Pac-12. But they're still in a lot better shape than Miami. It's just, but yeah.
Well, they have money, and they have money. If they'd lost Dan
Lanning, that would have been like cruel and unusual punishment.
Lord, I was sitting here. I mean, look, funny. It would have been funny. Like, I don't have any love loss, obviously, for Oregon. I think they talk a lot for having nothing in return, and they really were trying to keep a coach like Willie Taggart, which is wild to me. I don't get it.
I think they are. I think they are well situated to compete with this.
Oh, absolutely.
NIL.
They're going to be good. The thing about Oregon too is nobody really hated Oregon until they got good.
But I think they got the good. I think they got a good coach.
All the different uniforms. It's like
they got
sorry,
money.
Jen.
They will. Their payroll will probably be higher than any other team this next year. Maybe I would imagine Ohio State's up there, but Oregon has basically a complete blank check to write to athletes.
Yeah, he wants to
It's
see that
true.
national title before he goes. You know, he's on up
Yeah,
there in late 70s.
And by the way,
Who?
Autzen State, for those of you guys watching, Autzen Stadium's a really cool place too.
Do you
Yeah,
think
absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. It really is. But
you can get there?
I don't. Okay, so I think Dan Lanning will leave Oregon, and I think he will be the next coach at Alabama when Kalen DeBoer is gone in 2 years.
That would make
I'm
sense.
sorry.
But Phil Knight, the CEO of Nike, I mean, he is
Look, Phil
Oregon
Knight,
football.
Look. I get it, but he wrote a blank check to Mario Cristobal and Willie Taggart, and they didn't take it.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying
Dan
you just
Lanning-
asked just a second ago. You asked who I was talking about. I was telling you.
Oh no, I know. I was just saying. I think Dan Lanning wants to be in the SEC. I honestly, if you ask me, and anybody can take it for what it's worth, I think him and Alabama had a deal because I don't think he would have seen those rumors come out the way it was. And I think he backtracked. I think he did not want to be the guy to follow Nick Saban. I think he backtracked. And I also think that he
Would you wanna
thought
be the guy
that
to follow
job.
Nick Saban?
No, 100% I wouldn't. I think that was a great choice for him. I think he thought the job would be open in 3 years and he could be the savior. I think it's better to be the savior than the fixer. That is what it is. I'm not, but maybe he will win at Oregon. Maybe he will. Maybe they'll win a national championship and he won't go.
He
I
doesn't.
don't see it.
He doesn't have to work with boosters. He doesn't
Exactly.
He doesn't have. So Lanning, I mean, if you're at Oregon, you have just like one part of the business has all been outsourced to Nike, and you don't have to worry about it. Where in Alabama they don't have a single donor. You know,
It's real nice to not have to schmooze for money.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
I 100% agree with you on this. I 100% agree with you on this.
That's a great
I'm just
point,
saying, Dan
That's
Lanning,
been their thing. It's what they had, you know. But no, I agree with you, Jen.
that whole group, the SEC for those coaches winning at Alabama is the end all be all. And if you can go in and do it and save it after Nick Saban left, say it fails. Look, you're going to be the next Nick Saban. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I'll tell you the thing that I worry about for them is that they get the Nebraska situation, which is where, you know, you don't quite hit the level you were at before. And so then you start to churn through the coaches and you spiral your way all the way down to, you know, where Nebraska fell to.
and
I would absolutely love to see it.
You're in
But
a
we got
state-
another caller here, guys. Go ahead. You're live with the game. Sorry to cut you off.
Hello?
Did you have a question for us?
Yeah, I just gotta say that I'm calling from Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha,
Aaron.
Nebraska. Welcome on.
And I've been following you guys quite a bit, and I'm an old Nebraska fan since 1969. And it's hard to
Go
believe
Huskers.
that you guys are
There we go.
going to be in the Big Ten and everybody else. But if you are, you do make it. I want to welcome you to the Big Ten and welcome you to Lincoln, Nebraska. And one day a year, luckily, well, we'll meet you at the 50-yard line, and we'll do a little bit of rumbling.
Sounds like a plan, man. Those were some the 90s. Nebraska and Florida State were those two teams, so maybe y'all can get it going.
Yeah,
I know y'all got a coach y'all like pretty well right now, getting things
You
together.
guys took it to the woodshed a couple times.
Yeah, I think y'all took quite a few teams to the woodshed as well. But we appreciate you calling, man. If you don't have a question, we'll let you go. But we appreciate you
Well,
calling.
one question I do have is, how legitimate do you really think that you guys are going to make it to the Big Ten, or is the SEC going to stop this?
All right, that's a great one, and we will talk
And
about
I'll
that
hang
for a
up
little
and
bit.
And again, I wish you the best of luck.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for calling.
Real quick, how funny is it in retrospect? Florida State versus Nebraska in the Orange Bowl might be the realigned Big Ten championship game.
Yep.
It's there. It can happen, man. It's so
That
many
kick.
awesome matchups.
It was the kick. It was the kick at the end. I will never forget it. I'm going to age myself. I can't age myself. I should stop.
Well, I think everybody knows my answer, but I'm curious. Everybody can answer, but I guess Tony,
I was very,
and
very
Bill,
young. I should not remember it.
what you guys think about if the SEC has a real shot. I think that relationship is stained to a level that SEC may try to work something out with the ACC. They may come in with a big offer, but at the end of the day, Florida State is just worth money just because of what it means to them, and adding Florida when SEC already has it, et cetera. It just means so much to Fox.
Let me give you a hypothetical scenario. Let me give you a hypothetical scenario.
Sure.
Let's call this the Texas-Oklahoma scenario, just hypothetically. What if ESPN has their issues with the ACC? What if you got to go to the SEC and you either didn't pay an exit fee or you paid a minimal exit fee?
Yeah, that's something they could offer.
Mm-hmm.
That might be real pretty.
I think it could be real pretty.
I don't know. I don't pretend to know who your president's talking to behind closed doors. So people tell me you're off to the Big Ten, but it would not surprise me in the least if they worked out a very Texas-y, Oklahoma-y situation for you.
So I do think that once Florida State becomes available, right? Once they become available, I don't see the SEC not stepping in to play defense there. I just don't. I'm sorry. I know everybody can say that the SEC doesn't want Florida State and they don't want to expand. I get it. Y'all, I get it. If Florida State and Notre Dame decided to just go to the Big Ten now, I think conference expansion is done. I don't think anybody else moves for at least a couple years. I'm sorry. That's it. It's all done. But that's not what's going to happen. Notre Dame is not being.
What is that thing that the SEC won't do that would be necessary to fix it, to make it possible?
I would say a full share. I would also, God, I really don't know, because I think Florida State's going to get a full share for the Big Ten too. I don't know. And I think, for me, I think Florida State does not want to go into the SEC being another redheaded stepchild like they were in the ACC. I don't see the SEC putting Florida State treating Florida State the way the Big Ten would, as their only Southern team, right? As their only Florida team. I think the Big Ten would treat them better. I don't know. And I get things could change, things could happen. But Florida State's going to be treated like the same team they were in the ACC. And I don't think that's what they want. And I think that's why they've had their eye on the Big Ten for the longest time.
I will say one thing that worries me a little bit, and I don't think it would stop you from joining anywhere. But I worry a little bit. And I've said this again, and Florida State fans, by the way, I'm loving you. So I'm saying this lovingly, not challengingly. But the way that you guys have handled your situation, if I was a reluctant president of a university, the way that you've handled things in the ACC might give me a lot of pause as to whether I was going to invite you to join my conference now. And that's one of the reasons that I think that settling this and getting out of it is the best thing for all.
Okay, yeah, well, that could be fair. It's two different ways it could go. Either you go all the way and the discovery proves how effed up and how right you are about how the whole thing is, and it just looked like you were operating in bad faith with the ACC, or like you're saying, yeah, you settle, everybody shakes their hands and amicably goes the other way. And to our caller's point, if you went to the SEC, pretty much everything would stay in the house, so there would be the ability to bury that PR and bring it all around, with ESPN. But I don't believe that. I'm just, talking devil's advocate. Sorry to cut you off, Bill. I think you might have been starting to go.
Well, I think, the Big Ten is going to be the national conference, so you want to get into that. And I think, if things evolve, and if one conference is going to end up being kind of the top conference taking in others, it's going to be the Big Ten taking in the SEC. And I want to mention to the caller from Omaha, so I can take this hat off. So this is the hat that Oregon State, this was the winner's hat when Oregon State won the national championship in baseball in 2018. There's like a little beaver on the side somewhere, but it's really the Chamber of Commerce of Omaha must have paid a lot of money to swap in those hats.
I love that. I love that, and I'm very jealous
so
that
cool.
Oregon State has won a baseball championship. I can do that.
Yes, for us Florida State fans, it's like it's like it hurts so bad. We had Mike Martin Sr. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
One of the greatest ball coaches of all. He's got like all the records as far as trips to Omaha, trips.
Can't do it.
Just whatever. It just didn't happen, unfortunately. But
Bees play some good baseball though, guys.
Yeah, they're really good this year too.
For sure, it's going to be a lot of fun. Well,
yeah, we're excited.
I hope there's still a baseball, a national championship in baseball when all this settles out, because the Olympic sports in general, if you've got to cut dead weight to feed the football system, it seems like Olympic sports are going to be one of the first things you start chopping. So,
very true. Very true.
Well, and I'll tell you guys. So there's somebody I'm actually working on some research with somebody from Duke on this, but there's a lot of spending in Olympic sports that doesn't necessarily, I think, produce a return to the university. Like there's benefits of sports, like why we do sports, because of the things that they learn and all of the benefits for the students and the benefits of the school and all that. There's a lot of stuff that it seems like it's just spending money to spend money. And we've found some really interesting examples of that.
Yeah, it seems like when you look at the revenue and expenditures of these programs, it always, you always have a surplus in the football side, and it gets completely spent on the Olympic side. And, that could be $30 million, $40 million of, negative spend on the Olympic side. And if you're trying to compete, I particularly think the top schools in the Big 10, the SEC are going to be fine. They're going to continue to fund, but the Big 12, the G5 schools, that's going to be difficult.
I have a comment for this one. And by the way, I love all the schools in Dallas. I love all the schools in Houston. All 4 of them, of the big ones. And guys, there's nobody let's use Florida State as the bellwether, right? Like Florida State is the type of school that the Big 10 is interested in. Florida State's and Notre Dame's. Like, is there another one of those in Texas who's not already in the SEC?
No.
Is there another Florida State in Texas that's not in the SEC?
Well, if you ask SMU,
I don't see it.
Yeah, but that's not true.
I do love the Ponies' confidence. They'll be.
My goodness,
by the way,
they are. Yeah,
I think they're going to be good for the ACC.
Oh, I agree. I 100% agree with you, and I also think that if the ACC had not capitulated to Notre Dame and done Cal and Stanford, and maybe done like a SMU, Memphis, USF. I think that would have been better.
Sorry, I was a little out of it there. We had a little stuff going on behind the scenes. But we do finally have our special caller that we was hoping to get for a little rant here from our guy. So without any further ado, our guy, Tiny Hat Gang, what do you got for us, man?
Yes. The Tiny Hat CEO has returned to the Renegade Rundown. What is going on, people? How you doing? I see you, George. Look at Jen looking like a FSU Harley Quinn over there, split down the middle, half and half. I see you, girl. You go ahead.
Thank you.
Anyway, I wanted to jump on here because somebody in the chat down here, we really need to talk about what's going on in this chat. These Big 10 schools do not want us up there because they know we coming to take their lunch money. We coming to take their lunch money. For too long, that plebeian Big 10 conference has been Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan. There is nothing going on out west up there. There's nothing coming out of Penn State. They always go, Penn State and Michigan State got defenses, or Penn State and Michigan State. I don't want to hear none of that, all right? Florida State gets dropped in the Big 10. You know what's happening? We are easily top dogs up there. Ohio State going to have to come see us. Michigan going to have to come see us. The Nebraska Cornhuskers gonna have to go make us some popcorn while they watching us make movies out here. Everybody else is gonna have to go sit down because we're gonna sit on the top of that conference like we sit on the top of this conference we in right now. Okay, we coming to take all y'all lunch money. Y'all go, oh, we got all the research money. Well, you know what? We taking that too. We gonna go and dunk y'all in the toilet. We gonna shake y'all pockets out when we hang y'all upside down because Florida State is gonna dominate that conference like we've been doing out here. All right. When I want to see everybody in the Big Ten bow down to the feet of the greatness that is the royalty of Florida State. There's a reason we got those regal colors. All right. Garnet and gold, baby. Garnet and gold. There's nothing up there in that conference that look like that. Maybe Northwestern with their little purple, but they can go sit down somewhere too. We don't want to see none out of them. They look like a bunch of screensavers out there. That's what they look like. We got royal colors going on. Okay, that's what we do. All right, the big dogs of the block are coming up there. We're gonna take all y'all money, and y'all gonna have to come see us from there. That's what I wanted to say. So to my boy that was in the chat talking about, they fit better with the SEC. Florida State fits everywhere. All right, Florida State is nationwide. No nation is going to stand up, and we're going to show the Big Ten how we do when we come up there and take their bread. Let's go. Tiny Hat Gang, we out.
Facts. And that's why when Tiny Hat calls, he gets president. He doesn't beat around the bush. He goes in and he tells them how it is. And I loved it. Out there looking like a bunch of screensavers. That one got me. That one.
I how does he think of this stuff? Like, I can't. I wish I could do it that good. I really do. Like, unless I'm mad,
Wait,
like, if I'm. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, tell Tiny Hat I was there when Bobby Bowden went into Big Ten country, and Bobby Bowden went to Ann Arbor to face a national number 3 Michigan and hit them like a freight train, rolling through Desmond Howard 51-31. I was in the stands for that game.
Ohio State 0-3 lifetime against Florida State. Brad Powers comes through with 999.
Let me tell you what else is going to happen, though. You're going to go and you're going to lose at Purdue on a cold Saturday night.
Oh, yeah.
Just like everybody else. It happened.
Look, we've lost to Wake and freaking NC State. I mean, you can't get worse than that.
Yeah.
So,
no, but there's something about those late night Purdue losses. They just hurt.
They'll be the new NC State on the road.
Worst place,
nothing worse.
Go to Corvallis when you're number 1 in the country, and you will not come out number 1 in the country.
It is weird how that works. Places like that, man. Some places they got your number, but boy, this has been so much fun, man. Anybody got anything on their hearts, anything to cover before we get out of here? I really appreciate Bill and Tony for coming through and staying so long. We're at like an hour and almost 45 minutes. What else? Anything we got? Guys, if you want to call, now's your time for speak now or forever hold your peace. You got another 5-10 minutes.
While you guys are reading the Florida State stuff on Bill's Substack, though, check out the other stuff.
And hey, Jordan, if you want to, Jordan, you can pop up. I don't know if we covered this. We're lucky to have our guy Jordan Mayton produce this show. It's been a big help. It really helped with the beginning of the show, getting everything going, getting these graphics and stuff on there. I don't know if he wants to join, but we really appreciate him for helping us with this thing too. And I do that. Sorry about that for asking a question and then cutting you off because you started talking, Tony.
George,
I'm still learning at this stuff.
Since it's your birthday, let me say one thing. Yes, thank you to Jordan for being here and putting all this together because usually it's George. It's his birthday. All I do is show up. He does everything in the show. I literally do nothing other than sit in this chair, turn on my light, and I'm here. Like, George does everything. I would know how to do anything. So thankful to Jordan for being here and giving George a night off.
Absolutely. It was a big help and a lot of fun. And hopefully we can do business more going here in the future as the show continues to grow. Absolutely. Go get those ribeyes. Yeah, I'm going to get me some ribeyes. We're gonna be eating steaks here the next couple of days at the house. Ribeyes and gator tail. I'm not that big on gator tail. It's super chewy. Like you have to really get the right person to cook it. If you get the right Cajun to fry that thing up, it really can fall apart and melt in your mouth. But if not, it can. It's like one of those things. It's better to say you ate gator than to actually eat it. But Some of those po' boys, if they're done just right, pretty damn good. And yes, of course, somebody said this at the very beginning of the episode. Never forget 2015 FSU 227, and that's my birthday. So I'm reminded of that every year. The anniversary of the safety game for UF. That was amazing.
So George, you have the same birthday as my mom and the same name as my dad. Isn't that weird?
No shit. The debutante from Memphis.
He,
Learn something new every day. Oh, happy birthday, Odell Higgins. It's also his birthday.
yes, it is.
Happy birthday, Odell. We really
It's not a
appreciate you.
debutante just because I,
Or did I say that wrong? Acolyte? What is it? The people that are all like, they care about society. You know what I'm trying to say.
I didn't say I cared. I said I went to cotillion. There's a difference.
Well, whatever you call it. Yeah. What do you call those people? What is that class of people that goes to
I guess
cotillion?
it is a debutante. I get it, but like, I don't.
People are weird
I'm
about
trying-
words. I called myself, I said professional pundits were talking a bunch of smack, and I said, not this one though. And we had somebody, oh, you're a professional pundit now. Huh? I was like, I meant it as like a term of like kind of negative, like I didn't think it was just mean somebody that talks professionally, but yeah, it's like whatever. I'm not projecting. Some people want to act like they're this or that, a baller, or this, making all this kind of money. We're just blessed to be able to do this thing. We love it. We like having people like Bill and Tony on, and like just having
Oh my gosh,
fun.
I'm so
We want
excited.
to
This
hit
is
on the
so
videos that everybody wants to talk about, the subjects and stuff. But at the end of the day, we're living a dream, and whatever the meager pennies I can scrape together to be able to do this full time, that's it. And we couldn't do it without Jen. She said all those lovely things, but to be honest, without a true partner and a co-host that you have every week, it's hard to get one of these things to go. So it's a lot of work, and it's 3 times a week, 2 hours at a time, and bam, it's fun. But I guess we've reached a pretty good end point, guys.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you all. Anything,
Happy
any last words
birthday.
before we
Thanks
get
for
out of
having
here?
us.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks for
brother.
having us. Go Bees, fight on.
Oh,
Right
this
on.
is so fun. Thank you guys so much. I don't have the words. I appreciate it. So everything was so much fun tonight, and I'm so glad that George had his good birthday night show.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys again, and I will leave you with this.